Champions Trophy is ours, champions of the world. India finally lays claim to Champions Trophy after a long, long gap. After the, well, very, very disastrous final that it played last in the Champions Trophy, where Mohammad Amir wreaked havoc. I think this time people will remember this Champions Trophy with a lot more happiness, and it was quite a campaign, you would say, wouldn't it? Almost every single game that they played, they were unbeaten. But beside being unbeaten, you could say that by far they were the better team. By far. They were challenged multiple times by multiple teams all along the way. Nonetheless, today, by New Zealand, who were relentless. The one word I would use to describe New Zealand is relentless. They were relentless in their approach. They were relentless in the way they wanted to win. They never gave up, be it in the field, be it with the bat, be it with the ball. The New Zealand kept coming back at India, and every single time India seemed to dig deep, deep enough to find an answer. And sometimes an answer might not have been clear, but they found an answer somewhere or the other. And you got to credit team selection for that, because the kind of depth India had in batting, where you had Jaddu walking it at number 8, the kind of variety you had with the spin bowling, with the bowling, I would like to say, unfortunately, the pace bowling was less because there were only roughly 10 overs of pace bowling. But even among the four spinners, the variety we had with the spinners, the fact that we had so many well established all rounders, and though the ground fielding wasn't fantastic, the ground fielding was consistently good. And I think these three factors really contributed to the fact that India did so well in this campaign in the Champions Trophy. Talking specifically about this match, I should say that India was really pushed into a corner. There were times when I genuinely felt that the game was getting away from us. And when I say times, I don't mean once or twice. I mean like literally 5 to 6 times. Let's go one by one, just in sequence of events. The opening partnership from New Zealand, fantastic opening partnership. It was without breaking a sweat, without being too challenging, without really being too aggressive, without taking too many risks. The runs just kept coming, and you've got to admire how beautifully Rachin Ravindra plays. It's almost like he played a pickup six of roughly the same length ball as the next ball, where he hit a beautiful square drive, followed that with a beautiful flick of the legs. He was a treat to watch. And being left handed, he's naturally stylish, but good God, he was so, eloquent with his strokes, and he had so much time on his hands, and there was power, there was placement, there was timing. It was fabulous. Then, of course, India clawed back with two fantastic strikes. Kuldeep Yadav, the architect of both the strikes, but before Kuldeep Yadav could come in and claim those wickets, I think you need to credit the man who enabled it, Rohit Sharma. If you've noticed, almost every single match he's always brought in either Akshar Patel or he's brought in Varun Chakravarti, not Kuldeep. I don't know why. Perhaps there was some thinking, there was some analysis and understanding of, who they were against. Maybe it was the fact that there was a left-hander in the form of Rachin Ravindra there, but Kuldeep Yadav was brought in, and his bowling was different. His bowling was beautiful. There was the slowness, there was the loop, there was the revolutions, there was a spring in his stride. You could see it. If Mohammad Shami's opening burst was disappointing, if Hardik Pandya's opening burst was deflating, Kuldeep Yadav coming in the 7th or the 6th over was just what the doctor ordered for India. He was a breath of fresh air, and he was the reason. He showed glimpses of his fabulous form that made him what he is. I think the confidence has now come back. He came back from an injury, remember, and he started playing the England series just before this. So I think it's fair enough to say that he went through a long time without really being at 100%. And I'll say that this game he was probably at maybe 85 to 90% of the best he could be. And the two balls that got them out also was fantastic. And so it started off first with Varun Chakravarti, of course. Um, you know, uh, how else? Who else apart from Varun Chakravarti to take the first wicket? It was a beautiful ball, wasn't it? It was almost like it was too full and too full to drive, but the ball kind of just went high and just kind of dipped. So Will Young was kind of caught in no man's land, and he tried to hit it and almost yorked himself into a plum LBW basically. Then of course there were twin strikes by Kuldeep Yadav, Rachin Ravindra, and the in-form Kane Williamson, or Kane Mama, as we like to call him back in Hyderabad. Rachin Ravindra was a beautiful ball, clean bowled. He really didn't have an answer to it. He was playing like a dream, and to be able to be castled by a bowler shows what a fantastic ball that was, right? So I don't think he was able to read him off the pitch. He was not able to read him from the hand for sure. Definitely read that ball wrong off the pitch, and that was clean bowled. That was beautiful. Kane Williamson, I think, was maybe had he been a little bit more aggressive, maybe had he been a little bit more of a attacking mindset, maybe that dismissal would not have happened. He was just looking to go for a single, and of course the ball turned enough to take the outside edge and a simple looping catch back to Kuldeep Yadav. So when New Zealand kind of got away with it, and I think they were roughly about 65 or 70 runs, 69 runs actually to be exact, at the end of 10 overs, you felt that India had a game on its hands. And you also felt that the pitch was actually very good compared to the previous pitches. I kept feeling that the ball was coming on very nicely to the bat. And, though there was spin, it was still manageable. It was consistent spin. It wasn't that one ball was spinning, one ball wasn't. It was consistent spin. And definitely there was good carry. And you could feel that it was a way better batting pitch compared to before. And at the end of 10 overs, you wouldn't have been alone if you thought that maybe a score of 275 to 300 was on the cards. And then started India's beautiful clawback. The spinners, they bowled fantastically in tandem, managed really well by Rohit Sharma. The field placements, I think New Zealand paid a total of something like 140 dot balls. That's close to half of their entire innings were in dots. And that was all primarily because of the pressure that was created by the spinners. It was pretty incredible, actually. They bowled very well in tandem. And I think anything about the spinners, especially Jaddu and Aksar bowling, is that they were able to get through their overs like that. They were just running through the overs before New Zealand was able to settle down. And the fact that 3 wickets went down meant that New Zealand weren't taking any chances at all, which kind of comes back to a very important selection issue that New Zealand went into. But we'll talk about that later when we talk about the bowling. But I believe that the selection issue actually had an impact on the batting as well. So Darren Mitchell really tried to soak up all the pressure, thinking that he'll make up for it later on. But that really wasn't the case. And when Tom Latham got judged LBW to Jadeja, and you should say that was a fantastic piece of bowling, and he kind of lured Latham into that shot. There was really nothing wrong per se that Latham did. Maybe he would have, again, once I said, it is the fact that they went into a shell and they were looking only for singles and nudging the ball and not really trying to hit the ball, that this kind of dismissals happen. So I'll put, while Kane Williamson wasn't really in a defensive mindset, he was not in an attacking mindset, and Tom Latham definitely was in a defensive mindset, which led to a very, very tame, soft kind of dismissal. Something you don't really want one of your premier batsmen against spin. Latham is fantastic against spin with the sweeps and the reverse sweeps and the square cuts, and there was none of that on display today. So I think once Glenn Phillips came in, it was clear that, again, this was a second. If the first phase was New Zealand running away and the second phase was India clawing back, I think the third phase was when Glenn Phillips came in and in the company of Mitchell initially started, rotating the strikes, started going for the big shots. And the moment they started going for the big shots, you could see that the spinners were threatened, their lengths changed, the paces started becoming faster. There was lesser purchase that they're giving from the pitch. So it was just a matter of being attacking, which I felt, granted 3 wickets went down, but that's where I felt Mitchell and Latham really struggled and kind of dug themselves in a hole over there. And when Mitchell wanted to, break free, he got out. So because when there's so much of pressure on you, there's nothing else you can do beyond just try to hit out, and that was a pretty good catch, I guess you can say. So yeah, but Glenn Phillips continued, and I think it was in with Michael Bracewell, was very slow initially when he started off, but he was the difference between a 220, 230 score and where they reached, which was 250. So again, Bracewell was very slow initially. They were very hesitant to go for shots, perhaps because there wasn't enough depth in their batting, and that kind of showed that they were waiting for the later overs to take a risk, and perhaps they waited a bit too long. Glenn Phillips, once again, beautifully went about his work. There was always a shot around the corner. It was almost like almost every over there was a boundary that he was hitting. So you could always see that he was very attacking and wanted to take the game to the opposition. But when Varun castled him, you kind of felt that the it's going to just fall flat. But I think that's when Bracewell kind of really stepped it up, and the last 10 overs. So we've gone through the third phase where India kind of clawed back, where Phillips kind of went up and then India kind of clawed back again. And now the fourth stage basically was the last 10 overs where I think it was Bracewell and a little bit of Phillips over here too, who really kind of took the bowling to the cleaners, if you may. And it wasn't power hitting and it wasn't slogging, but definitely the runs were there to be had. And the moment the spinners came off and the fast bowlers came in, it was fairly disappointing how Mohammad Shami bowled actually. He was very impressive throughout the tournament while not being at his best. And I thought he kind of peaked against the Australian game, playing very, very well over there. But today he was very, very, unimpressive. The pace was there, really 140-ish. Yes, I guess you can say that. But it just wasn't penetrative. He wasn't able to have control. He wasn't able to restrict the batsmen. And there were shots being played all over the place, basically. So I don't know if I was bowling to a field or not, but it was fairly disappointing that one of India's premier bowlers had to bowl that way. So actually, if you think about it, both the Pacers, I think 7 overs and 3 overs, 9 overs and 3 overs, 12 overs between them, they've gave close to 100 runs, which is almost above 8 in over. And that says a lot that Pacers went for so much amount of runs on this pitch. Not just on this pitch, it shows how badly we bowled as Pacers compared to how good they batted, or had it not been for our spinners, we would really have been in a hole. So 250 on the whole was a you won't say it was a par score, but you would say it's about 20-30 runs short. But the fact that it was a final, Champions Trophy final, and India chasing these big name players, chasing coveted silverware, the pressure was always going to be on India. So 250 was always game on, and you felt that they kind of got away a little bit from the 220, 225 that they were at. I thought they got about 20-25 runs more, but at the same time, you also felt that they were 30 runs less than what's a par score. And I think pretty much that's basically what happened towards the end too. I think one selection call that really have to think about from New Zealand's point of view was who they chose to replace for Matt Henry. Matt Henry was their highest wicket taker in the tournament and their most important bowler actually. So you might say that the entire tournament was dominated by spin, but the pace bowlers actually of New Zealand did a very good job in setting things up, and Matt Henry was their go-to choice of bowler whenever they needed a wicket, be it in the beginning half, opening the bowling, or be it in the later stages. And when he was injured in the last game, they chose to replace him with basically a newcomer called Nathan Smith. I think he's played 2 or 3 games before this, but you can pretty much say he's a newbie basically. And it's one thing having a new person bowling to a marauding, aggressive Rohit Sharma, but it's a different thing when a new guy is bowling to a Rohit Sharma in the final of a Champions Trophy. I mean, what else did you expect? So what were the options available and what was the team composition? So there's this fantastic player whom I'm sure most of you IPL fans would have heard of, Devon Conway. He's a left-handed opening batsman, and he's fantastic at what he does. Now, the only reason why he's not there, I think, is because Rachin Ravindra is your other left-handed batsman. So, did they really drop him just because they didn't want two left-handed opening batsmen? That makes no damn sense at all. But anyway, so Devon Conway also is a good spinner. So you could have as well picked him, given him some overs to bowl, and you would have had depth in your batting. Something which really hurt the New Zealanders, in hindsight, because they lost those three quick wickets. And then Mitchell, who's a very, positive player, along with Latham, went into a very defensive mindset because there was no cushion. Now imagine that with a Conway in your team, where you have one extra full-fledged batter and also who can bowl very well. So in hindsight, Smith bowled just a couple of overs and he was very expensive at it. So I'm sure Conway would have done a better job if he couldn't have done worse than that, and he would have had an extra batsman. So I think that's definitely a call which was kind of sideways over there, and New Zealand definitely were hurt by that. Talk about India's batting, and when you say India's batting, you're talking about two people mainly who need to stand up in such a big game. You either had a Virat Kohli or you needed to have a Rohit Sharma who stood out there and made a statement. And today, it was Rohit Sharma, and what a statement it was. I've always said that there was a template with which he played, and that is the template of being ultra aggressive, being the force, being the forceful person, being the change maker, taking the opposition, by the horns and taking the battle to their doorstep. And that's exactly what Rohit Sharma did. Even though on that kind of a pitch, I think this was a statement that Santner also later said, that on that kind of a pitch, for Rohit Sharma to be scoring at the rate at which he did was remarkable. And those shots, they look normal, but believe me, they are not normal whatsoever. I mean, especially on this pitch, which is still better than before, but still definitely on the slower side. Coming down the wicket, there was shots on the offside, there were shots in front, straight down the wicket, there were shots on the leg side, there was the pull, there was the sweep sometimes. It was like everywhere there were shots, there was an answer to almost every kind of bowling. And had India not lost those 2 wickets in a heap, and if he had just about maybe 5-6 overs more to play in that mood, I think you would have seen a beautiful Rohit Sharma century, but that was not to be today. So Rohit Sharma was definitely the change maker, and the point of difference between both teams was definitely Rohit Sharma, without doubt. Talking about the Prince, Shubman Gill, again, I wouldn't say disappointing, but I'll again say an underwhelming performance. Initially, he was at a strike rate of 45 or 50. I think it was 10 of 25 balls or something of that sort. I understand you want to give the strike to Rohit, who's batting very well on the other side, but that doesn't mean to say you swallow up so many balls. That's total nonsense. You need to be better at rotating the strike, especially in the beginning 10 overs when there's so many gaps to be had. You can just, and also the fact is he can play such good shots too. But it almost seemed like, okay, since Rohit is going for shots, I'm not going to go for shots. Why? Why was that the case? You could both have gone for shots, and I'm sure it would have come off even better, and there would have been an even further pressure. I think Mitch Santner later on in his conference said that bowlers are genuinely scared of a guy like Rohit Sharma. Like when he goes in one of those moods, you really don't know where to bowl anymore because your best ball just got hit for a 6. So what answer do you have next? Nothing. So it was one of those days when things just kind of worked for Rohit Sharma. And let's spend a minute talking about that catch. That catch that got Gill dismissed. So it was just after the drinks break, and you could see that New Zealand were completely stressed. India was running away with it, 106 for no loss, or 105 or whatever it is for no loss in 18 overs or something, and there was just no stopping them. They didn't have an answer to Rohit Sharma, and he was just going crazy. And Mitchell Santner comes on to bowl one of those loopy, full shots, full balls, and that kind of almost Yorker length kind of thing, and Rohit and Shubman Gill went into a full-blooded drive, but because it was so full, it had to hit it in the air, and it would have cleared any fielder 99 times out of 100. But this one time, that fielder happened to be Glenn Phillips, and he held on to a sensational catch. I mean, it was so sensational. The ball was almost past him. He was up in the air, one hand sticking out. He caught the ball, lands on his hand. It was just like symphony in motion. It was everything that is fantastic about fielding in cricket. I mean, it was beautiful. It was the love of fielding, the genius of Jaunty Rhodes, and the occasion. The occasion. India is running away with it. You have a break. You're charged up. You have a pep talk by Kane Williamson, who's now not playing because he's injured. You have a pep talk by the captain, and you say, "Come on, boys, let's do this." And how do you respond? You pull off an absolutely sensational blinder. I mean, it was quite something, and you didn't feel bad that Shubhram Gill got out. You were in awe that he was out the way he did. So kudos to that. In walked the great Virat Kohli, and he wasted a review, didn't he? That was called an ego call on the review. It was plum LBW. I think that was obvious. But I think it was kind of a rash shot, to be honest. I don't want to sit here and analyze Kohli's cricket. I mean, he's had a wonderful tournament. He's played very well. Don't get me wrong. But that really was a pretty rash shot. You would say that, because I think it was Sunil Gavaskar on air who said that that's not the kind of shot that you would play if you're batting on one. It's the kind of shot you would play once you've got your eye in, you've got used to the pace of the pitch, you understand the bowler's trajectory, so on and so forth. The bat didn't come down straight at all. The bat almost came around the leg. And it's a familiar problem to Kohli. What can I say? The front foot gets planted out front, and the bat has to kind of, make its way from side. And invariably he'll miss it, and invariably it'll be out. And he's like, "Oh, it spun so much, It didn't spin so much at all. It was basic trajectory. The spin was normal. It was expected. So it wasn't like a wonderful ball or something. He just missed the damn thing. Simple as that. So Virat Kohli getting out in quick succession right after Shubham Gill fell to a fabulous catch kind of really put the brakes on India, if you may. And in walked India's, who I feel is going to be an absolute superstar. I mean, you would say he's already a superstar, but he's going to be a bona fide superstar in the future, Shreyas Iyer. He is amazing. Shreyas Iyer is, I think, the reason why India wins half the games it wins. Over the last 2.5 years, since Iyer came into the ODI team, I think India has won, at least he would have had a hand in at least 70 to 80% of the times India has won from a batting point of view. And he would not have got the credit for it, even maybe 2 or 3 times he would have got the credit for it, because his is the kind of innings that always goes under the radar and always takes India forward. Shreyas Iyer is fantastic, man. I'm telling you, I'm a huge Shreyas Iyer fan, and this innings really kind of added to his charm. He's the perfect number 4 India have been searching for. The perfect number 4 India has been searching for. Rohit Sharma gets into a defensive mindset, and he's gone through so many balls where I think there's a time when they scored 25 runs or something of like 50 balls or something of that sort, Rohit Sharma and Shreyas Iyer, and they're trying to absorb this pressure. And when Shreyas Iyer is doing it, okay, you feel, okay, fine, they're just waiting for time. But when Rohit Sharma is doing it, you can just feel that something's going to give. And sooner or later, Rachin Ravindra comes out to bowl one of his loopy, really non-threatening balls, and Rohit Sharma just darts out of his ground, ready to hit it all the way from Dubai to Bombay, and he kind of misses it, and you can see the disappointment in his eyes. He didn't even try to get back to his crease. He's like, you could just feel the pain on his face in the way he didn't even try to get back to his crease. And Tom Latham, of course, completes the stumping, which is just a matter of finishing it. But that was a very sad, very disappointing end to Rohit Sharma. And on one side, you felt, okay, fine, India is still well placed. It was, I think, 123 or 124, so it was pretty much half the chase down and remaining half to get it less than 6 and over. But you kind of felt sad for him. And, if India did not make it at that point, you felt that was the end of the line for Rohit Sharma, and for such a person to get out that way in what would be his last innings would be a very sad way to do it. So that was the thoughts in my mind. I didn't want India to lose just because I didn't want that to be the kind of ending to Rohit Sharma's innings in ODIs. So yeah. So it was all gloom and depression over that time. In walks my other favorite Indian batsman, Bapu, which is Akshar Patel, and he tried to be aggressive. Sort of, he tried to find the boundary every now and then. He tried to run hard, although I thought he was having more mix-ups with Shreyas Iyer than anybody else. It was like there was a run out waiting to happen almost every over. But Shreyas Iyer and Akshar Patel and KL Rahul, we'll talk about KL Rahul in a second, but these three guys are the reason why India has been doing as well it has been doing this tournament and even before this tournament. These three guys are basically the engine room of the middle order. So whatever happens up top, whatever happens at the bottom, these three guys always are the people who you can rely on, and they've added between 100 and 120 runs consistently among themselves almost in every match situation. And it could be controlling the flow at the beginning, absorbing pressure, then building the innings, and then kind of accelerating towards the end. So these three guys have done a fabulous job, and they are the reason why India is able to post such good batting performances without an iota of doubt. So, so first let's talk about the way how Shreyas Iyer gets out. Okay, so Shreyas Iyer once again. I mean, I think there was this one shot when Shreyas Iyer, it was Doug Bracewell, I think, who was bowling, and he was bowling very well. I think he went through 10 overs, giving barely any runs. If I'm not wrong, he gave something like 25 or 30 runs of his 10 overs, which is fantastic, and he picked up a couple of wickets also. But anyway, so Doug Bracewell was bowling, and Shreyas Iyer hit this full-blooded sweep. He wasn't to the pitch of the ball, but he was committed, and he went for this shot. And basically, it was, I think it was just a couple of inches on the other side of the boundary, and it would have been caught. So I don't know who the fielder was, but he basically went in, caught the ball, had to throw it back in, and he got a six. But he was so close to getting out at that point of time, and had he got out at that point of time, you don't know how this match would have panned out. To be honest, India would have caved in the pressure and they would have succumbed. I think he had another lifeline and the reprieve when Kyle Jamieson actually put down kind of a dolly at long on, and he kind of indicated that the lights were to blame, but I don't think it was the lights. It was just one of those things that was bound to happen because the stars were aligned. And India had to lift the cup. So you can't really explain why things were the way they were. They just were. Anyway, so once Shreyas Iyer got out, I think then Akshar kind of took it upon himself to be the aggressor. And I think it was the same over as Iyer getting out. Akshar had hit a six. And it was again such a borderline shot because it could have so easily just been out. It just cleared the fielder by a matter of inches. So this game was tight. This game was like super tight, and a matter of a few inches on either side, and the ball would have been caught or it would have been out. Anything could have happened. This was anybody's game. So sure, India dug deep and they found answers and all those things. But the reason why I said is it might not have come the way they wanted to come, but it came somehow or the other. Is that it wasn't a chanceless game. It wasn't a game without blemishes. But somehow, somewhere, India just kind of scraped through. And by the time Akshar got out and then Hardik Pandya comes in, it was still not quite in the doldrums, but it certainly wasn't in a happy zone. So KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya, just kind of absorbed the pressure up front, and you always knew that there was a big, over or two just coming up that was around the corner, and especially with spinners bowling, Hardik Pandya is capable of just destruction. If he hits the ball, it stays hit. And that's exactly what happened. He had not all that many runs, but he had a very, very powerful knock. I think it was just a run ball 18, yes. But at that time, that's exactly what, the run rate really wasn't all the way above 6. So it was just that. And then finally, when Hardik did get out, then basically it was just down to Jaddu and Rahul. And Rahul actually played a very good knock even while Hardik was around and while Shreyas was around too. While Hardik was around, when Akshar was around too, is that there was always this rotation of strike that KL Rahul was always very good at. but also the release shot. When the pressure was on, there was this fantastic straight six that he hit. It could be the swivel pull that he did. It could be the square cut that he did. His shots are always so classy. It's elegance with power. KL Rahul is, and it shows. I mean, even Rohit Sharma said he knows what shot to hit when. I think it was a direct answer to somebody else who was missing out by the name of Rishabh Pant, who is fantastic when it comes out, but when it doesn't come out, looks stupid. And at this time, in this kind of a situation, you need something who had some wisdom between the ears, who was able to choose the shots wisely, and that's exactly what KL Rahul was. So not only did he have a good game and actually a good tournament behind the stumps, he was an invaluable asset to India with his batting. I think it was fitting that Jaddu, hit the winning runs. There was a feeling, and I still have a feeling, that maybe this is Jaddu's swan song. I feel that he might retire. There were different instances that kind of gave me that feeling. One was, Kohli going and hugging him right after his 10 overs were over. By the way, 10 overs for 30 in a Champions Trophy final, fantastic. I think 1 wicket or 2 wickets too. And then always gun fielding. And then finally, under pressure, hitting the winning runs. And after he won the game, the camera kind of panned on him and he kind of turned backwards and pointed at his jersey number and his name. You just had a feeling that this was Jaddu's last ODI. So don't hold me to that, but let's see if that's really going to happen or not. Because I felt that's how it was going. So yeah, overall, a fantastic batting performance, not without blemishes, like I said, not dominating in any way whatsoever, kind of scraping and finding its way down. But the fact that you had a proper batsman in the form of Jaddu walking in at number 8, mind you, meant that this target of 250 was really not going to be challenging for the Indian team. And the 20-30 runs, and you never know what could have happened. But 240, 250 was always going to be not easy, but definitely an accomplishable target, and that's exactly what it was. So yeah, that's that. That's a recap of how India managed to exercise its demons and doing it one tournament at a time, and doing it in style in the Champions Trophy of 2025. So I've loved bringing these things forward to you guys. And I know the CT is over now, the Champions Trophy is over, but we have some great cricket coming up in the form of IPL very soon, and you have a lot of fantastic national tournaments also that are coming up. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all then. And so by the way, what I do is I actually develop websites, right? So that's what I do. And I'm going to be launching this really cool Crickaholic website, which is going to be a platform for all cricket lovers like me, who want to have their own blog, who want to have their own communities, the discussion forums. I think we all do it right now through WhatsApp groups and such, but hopefully in the next month or so before the IPL, I want to launch this platform called crickaholic.com, where, it'll be a platform for cricket fans. So here's wishing you all an invitation to that, extending to you all invitation to that, and hopefully it'll be something that you all find exciting. So until then, see you all and have a great time.